Tucson, Arizona here with California death bride warmongers Exhumed, who have been doling out madness and insanity for over 2 decades. We'll be doing a 12 questions with Exhumed interview session for your viewing pleasure or displeasure, whichever you prefer. So first off, you guys had us all in a panic when you went silent for several years recently. Can you elaborate further as to why that happened?
We talked about it a bit in the lineups for the new record, but in a nutshell, I think with Anatomy as Destiny, when we did that record in 03, it was kind of like designed, at least internally, and maybe from the record label's point of view, to like be like the breakthrough album. They spent a lot more money on it. We've like got a better sound and better artwork and better photography and this and that. Anyway, and really nothing really ended up changing with the band in terms of like sales numbers or like money being made per night on tour, or more people come to the show, or like better looking girlfriends or any of that stuff. And it was like, it kind of, and then with all the lineup turmoil that happened after that, we were really having trouble like finding a suitable drummer, and it just seemed like everything we tried to do would like just not work. Like we did. Wes came in the band and we did the cover record, and even the cover record turned into like a giant clusterfuck. And we just sort of, like I said, every time we took a step, it was like the wrong move, and so it just kind of got to a point of feeling like banging your head against the wall.
Yeah, it's just, everything was just, every possible bad thing that could happen was happening, and like we were trying to persevere, but it just got to a point with the lineup changes and everything else where it was just like, okay, we need to take a step back from it because there's too many problems,
Yeah.
I can't remember the analogy you said, but it was something having to do with like trying to rebuild an old car.
Right. Yeah, that's what it felt like. It's like you have this old shitty car and you're like, well, I'll just put in a new transmission. Well, I just need a new fuel pump. Well, then it's like pretty soon you're like, all right, dude, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
What the fuck? I could have just bought a new car.
And it was also the point you were at in your life.
Yeah, I just turned 30, and I kind of had one of those moments of like, what the fuck am I doing with my life, kind of thing, So, there's an accumulation of a lot of things.
Now, with that said, is there any sort of, oh shit, we need to make up for lost time feeling at all?
I don't know. Not really.
Like people always ask us questions like we have all these grand designs and shit.
It's really
like, oh, what are you going to do? It's like, when we talked about doing a new record, it just kind of started as a joke. And then we thought like, oh, maybe we'll do a couple shows, and then the record came out and people seemed to like it, and then people kept offering us better things, and we're like, oh, well, fuck, now we actually need like a real lineup that can tour. And then it was like, oh, well, shit, we have all these tours, like, they're by a van. Like, I mean, when we recorded the album, we didn't even have like half of the equipment necessary to like play a show.
And we didn't have a rehearsal space, so we were borrowing people's gear and rehearsal spaces and blah blah blah. And it was just like it's kind of like we did everything backwards. Like we got all these offers, but then we didn't have the stuff to go do that. So it was like, okay, well we have this tour, well, we don't have a van. Okay, we have to rent a van. Then we found that the cost was prohibitive to rent vans. So we're like, okay, we need to buy a van. Like most bands, they have a van, they have gear. They at least have their own gear in the rehearsal space that they share with people or whatever. We just didn't have anything like that, so it was just like...
It was really weird, because it's like, well, we have a record label, we have at least some sort of fan base, we have a booking agent in Europe, we have a booking agent in America, but we don't actually even have like
basic things that you need
to like make this record. So it was kind of a weird thing. It was like starting all over again, but also like not, because we had a lot of roads up in a lot of weird ways.
The thing is just kind of like when we wrote the record, we didn't think like, okay, we got to do something like amazing so people will not feel like they got screwed over or whatever. I mean, we knew we had to do something really good, but it really just kind of flowed. It was really
I just kind of honestly like going into it knowing that you and I were writing the record together. I just was like, well, I know it's already going to be better than other albums, so
because there's more. Because there's two people writing half and half, so
instead of me doing 90% of the work, same thing on the shitty songs too. So.
Well, the fans surely must have rejoiced when you guys reformed, so to speak. I heard several people say, "Oh, Exhumed is playing with Cannibal Corpse. I thought they broke up," and we're stoked to hear you guys were performing. So, how have the responses been from the scene so far?
It's been really good. I mean, when we did Maryland last year, like, that was kind of insane. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, that was really eye-opening to me. I mean, like, I heard a bunch of people tell me that it was like the most gnarly reaction of the whole fest. I mean, obviously, like, when Ghost plays, people aren't going to be like beating the shit out of each other. They're going to get like,
Sure, it's
but
different
in
dynamic.
terms of like packing people in the room and like a lot of violent energy and stuff, it was just really surprising. I just was like, you know, to me, it's like my city band. I started in high school or whatever, and I don't really think about it. And then to see like the reaction was kind of fucking weird.
Yeah,
it's pleasing, but you know.
It's weird for me because like I joined the band, so I don't look at it that way. But when it comes to like the songs I wrote, I'm like, oh, whatever. Like I don't care, you know. But like looking at the band as a fan, also because I was before I joined the band, it was like, wow, okay, this band has a lot more clout than I ever thought. Like while we were on hiatus, you know, I talked to death metal kids, and you know, and they were like, oh yeah, you were in Exhumed, like you guys should totally reform, like you guys would be huge or whatever. And I was like, really? And then I had kids saying stuff like, oh yeah, I like you guys more than Carcass.
Wow.
Huh? Like
I've heard kids be like, yeah, because you guys, I got into like Carcass and Entombed. I was like,
If it's Carcass, Swan Song, or Heartwork, then hey, let them have it.
sure, yeah.
I don't know. I like all their records, but I mean, like,
They're all good.
It's just, it's weird. I mean, I'm glad that we didn't really put any thought into any of that when we were writing the material, because it really wasn't about any of that stuff. It just was about writing the songs we liked and trying to keep it simple. And it's cool that people dig it. I mean, it's fucking really flattering.
Yeah,
kind
it's
of
cool.
weird, but you know, we try not to think about it too much.
Yeah, we just, you know, it's being successful. I think is you don't try to do that. It either happens or doesn't. You know, it's like anything else. You just put yourself out there and see what happens. You know.
Okay, what were the members doing in the interim with other projects or anything else in life?
What you went to, well, you played in that Scarecrow thing, and then...
Right, well, I was playing live with Repulsion.
Oh, that's right.
And then I got like a sort of real-ish job. Did another record with my old thrash band, Decapitator. Started another like thrashing type band called Scarecrow that was more like Metallica or like Merciful Fate influenced or whatever. Whereas like Decapitator was more like Creator and
Cliff Burton or Metallica,
Yeah.
right?
Well, no, to like Justice and Black Album a little bit too. I mean, Ryan from Ryan Marathon, who mixed our EP, our accidental EP that wasn't supposed to be an EP. He's like, yeah, it's like Arena Thrash or whatever that's what he called it. So,
Monsters of Rock tour.
yeah, and then Wes had like a sweeter stuff in a band called Fatalist.
Fatalist. We did that for like a couple years,
And Leon was doing Intronaut with Danny.
and then his Murder Construct band that he's been doing for forever. You know.
Finally became an actual band.
Finally, yeah.
So, I mean, you know, I think like I moved to Hawaii. I lived there for like almost 2 years. I just sort of relaxed and hung out and drank beer on the beach for a while. It was pretty cool.
Is the band now full steam ahead once again and ready to reconquer the world?
It's definitely full steam ahead. I mean, like, once we did the record, we kind of realized that we could be on the road a lot. You know, obviously Danny's very busy with Intronaut. I mean, Leon has Murder Construct, and he also has like a very legitimate career. So we ended up enlisting Mike Hamilton from Beats of Flesh to play drums for us because Dean just doesn't really play live anymore. And then I was jamming with my friends in Grave Hill, and Rob was the guitar player in Grave Hill, and he also liked playing bass, and I was like, well, you can do some low levels where you can fill in for a tour. He ended up working out so well that we just asked him to join full time.
So now we actually have a band, which we never had before. So
Right. It's been, I mean, it really has been since Anatomy is Destiny that we had like an actual full-time lineup. And everybody, it's cool because everyone now, nobody's married, nobody has kids, nobody has a particularly big job, and everybody's like ready to get on the road and take advantage of the things that will come up.
yeah, everything just lined up perfectly to where, you know, every person in this lineup can go on tour and it doesn't really affect their personal life or anything else. So it's a good thing.
Because I mean, we're not kids or whatever. I mean, I understand like for a lot of people who are like married and don't have like touring, it's just totally disruptive to that life. And I wouldn't want to, ask somebody to sacrifice that. So it's cool. We don't have to.
Where does a lot of inspiration for the lyrics come from? I mean, it may be too easy to simply say, horror movies and zombies, which, many dime a dozen bands have drawn. Don't even get me started. Which many dime a dozen bands have drawn their influence from. But Exhumed's lyrics, at least to me, seem to be much more thought-provoking and in a very clever way, to where there's almost a sort of personal, social-political angle to it. Am I right to think this?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think, for me, Exhumed is a gore metal band. We're singing out gore, and that's fun. That's just, it is what it is. I wouldn't try to turn it into a band about relationships or whatever. But within that context, I try to put a lot of subtext, just really more than anything to keep myself entertained.
Yeah.
And it kind of varies from album to album. Some, like Anatomy had a lot of stuff at the time that was really into a lot of existentialist literature and kind of trying to put out the reality of death as sort of a wake-up call to, to really just be honest and face what existence really is and not think about, babies playing harps in the clouds or, stupid fucking vampire shit or whatever the fuck. We're a very atheistic kind of band, and I think it's all about confronting people with the physical reality of death and saying hey, this is it, and then from there it's sort of hopefully the idea is that this is kind of a philosophical jumping off point, because when you realize that this is it, then it should make you be like, hey, well, I should probably take advantage of the time that I'm here, and better to regret doing something than sit around being 50 being like, oh, I regret not doing it, you know what I mean? And so in that way it's sort of positive, but there's also songs that are kind of equating different political things or to, using the gore metaphor we sort of talking about. On the new record, Necrotized is sort of about basically watching TV and literally rotting your brain and stuff like that. And a lot of the songs, some of the earlier records, it seemed sort of more sensationally kind of sexist or whatever. They were at least intended to convey frustration about relationships and stuff, and not just be fuck bitches or whatever. So, although that's kind of how it came across in hindsight,
I just thought it was tongue in cheek.
Yeah, and the other thing is that we also don't take our lyrics or ourselves seriously.
Yeah.
We would never think that anybody would buy a record and be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go kill somebody now because the song's about killing people. That just seems farcical. It's insane. We like to have fun, and like I say, half the shit up in my lyrics, all the big words and the tongue twisters, I just do to keep myself entertained. I don't know that anybody reads the lyrics or bothers looking into them. But for me, it's when I'm up there every night singing, I have to at least amuse myself. So that's my
The same as a guitar solo, you try to write a solo that's fun for you to play, so you don't. Cause you're gonna have to play the damn thing a million times.
Right. If it's a good song, you're gonna have to play it So,
Well, you mentioned existentialism, so I will be looking for Camus and Baudelaire influences in your lyrics.
I'm a big Camus fan. The Plague is one of my favorite books of all time. The guy is fucking genius. I haven't read Baudelaire though. So.
The Plague and the Stranger, yeah, absolutely.
Sartre is big.
Oh gosh, yeah. All the French existentialist philosophers, yeah, it's awesome stuff. Okay, Exhumed on tour with Cannibal Corpse is really something remarkable. A double dose of two of the most stalwart extreme metal acts. Now tell us a little bit about the vision and direction of the tour, and give us a few anecdotes.
I think the vision that Cannibal had is pretty admirable. It's kind of ballsy. They obviously they're the biggest band in the history of the genre. Anybody that understands how numbers work can look at sales figures and it's clear. It's sorry, Morbid Angel, Deicide, Death, Obituary, everybody else.
Oh, that new Morbid Angel was awesome. What the hell's wrong?
It is awesome.
It is awesome.
In an ironic
when you're having a party and people won't leave, you just
that's how you get them to take off.
It's awesome. But and I think it's cool that they're an ambitious band in that they don't want to just get stuck playing where they can collect the most amount of money playing LA for 1,500 people. They want to go out and play places where they can still play and continue to sort of like making inroads there to kids that are just sort of on the fringes of the underground because they live in West Virginia or because they live.
So like have like a blue collar work aesthetic too.
Yeah,
You know,
and I think they just wanted to make a pure death metal tour, and you know, I know that they have a lot of say in doing the tour with, so we were like super psyched to get that. I mean, it was, you know, we would have been psyched regardless whether it came to the record or the management, but you know, those dudes, and I know that they have a say in the bands that they take out, so we were really flattered.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it when I first heard about that. I was like, wow, direct support for what? That's so crazy. Wow.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
I mean, as far as like, and the other thing that's cool is that they, you know, they also hang out with the other bands and have fun.
And they're helpful, you know, like even like their guitar tech will help us fix stuff. You know, and everybody's really easy to work with. Like the manager guy Pete is like the nicest guy. Nobody is rude or mean. If there's ever a problem, they just say, you know, simply and logically, like, hey, don't do that, or this is what's going to change. So blah blah blah. There's no bad vibes or anything. Like it's pretty unbelievable how smooth it is. Like
it's pretty rad.
Yeah.
I mean, like.
You couldn't ask for a better death metal tour, I don't think. Like, ever.
You know, I think the kids seem to appreciate it too, because I mean, you know, a lot of kids in these towns that we're playing, the B market or whatever you want to call it, like they don't really get to see a lot of death metal shows, and if they want to see like a big band, maybe they have to go, you know, see like Static X or you know, somebody that's not really like technically a death metal band. You know what I mean? So in order just to see one band they want to see, whereas on this tour they get to see, you know, they get to see Cannibal and they get to see 3 other like solidly death metal bands. So it's a pure death metal tour, and it seems to me like it's been doing pretty well. You know? I mean,
yeah, we haven't had any shows that I could complain about or say, wow, there was only like 40 people here. Like it's every night there's people standing. Like as soon as we get there to load in, there's like kids waiting to like go in and stuff. Wow. That's pretty impressive. That's cool.
You guys' relationship with Relapse dates back to the band's nascent years, and they've always been one of the most established labels in extreme metal, and now even more so with some of the bands on the roster, which are nameless, damn near being household names, Exhumed included. Explain
I was saying Mastodon?
Yeah.
So was I. Explain your relationship with this legendary label.
You know, one of my favorite questions that kids will ask me sometimes is, well, how did you guys pick Relapse to be on? And which just cracks me up because in the late 90s, you know, we kind of lucked into being on Relapse. We put out a split CD with this band Hemdale. And the drummer Craig had this label called Visceral Productions. It was getting pretty big, and their mail order was getting quite big, and they were kind of doing something similar to what Relapse was doing. And they signed this, you know, Incantation was off Relapse at the time. They signed Incantation, which at the time was like a major coup. And then they discovered this new band from South Carolina called Nile. They put out this EP called Ramsey's Blade of War that was like a really hot ticket in that area. And I think it kind of grew and grew to the point where Craig was like, fuck, this is a lot of work. And Relapse basically came in and said, hey man, we like what you're doing, we like your operation, here's a lot of money. Why don't you just give it to us? And he said, well, that's a lot of money. I think I'm going to take it. And basically, Relapse had the first right of refusal for every contract on Visceral. We didn't even have a contract. We had a deal where we were going to put out a CD and they were going to give us like 150 copies per 1,000 pressed. That's how big time everything was. But basically, Relapse said, hey, and they've been talking to us for a little while. It was really weird. For some reason, we just started sending us CDs, and we'd get CDs, and we were like, why are we getting these new Amorphous records? What's going on?
Oh, yeah. Energy is so good.
I only know the Tales of a Thousand Nights.
Ditto.
Yeah. And so it just kind of culminated in like a couple phone conversations, and they were really realistic. You know, they didn't say we're going to make you guys big stars, we're going to make you rich. They just said, we like what you're doing, we think it's cool, like we'd like to throw out a record and see what happens. And we're like, well, great, because I'll tell you, like, it wasn't like Nuclear Blast, Century Media, or Earache, or any of those labels were even, I don't think we were on their radar, let alone they weren't knocking on the door. So I mean, I also kind of, you know, one of them were so on where we know a lot of people at the label. Even as things change there, we still know a lot of people. And you know, I like working with people that I know and I trust and that I like. And then I look around at the other bands on the label, and I certainly don't like every record Relapse puts out, but none of them make me like cringe, like, oh, damn. Like,
like other labels where you're like,
Yeah, you almost have to nowadays be bigoted by label. You know, you look at a band and you flip it over, whatever the CD or the vinyl, and you go, oh, that label? Like, oh, that label, badass.
so you already know that it's not good just by looking
You
at
have to be a label bigot. We won't mention those labels' names, but they know who they are.
and that's how I always was when I was a kid. I mean, like, I was like, look, Noise Records has Celtic Frost, they got Creator,
Corner.
they got Voivod, they got Corner, so if they put it out, it's probably worth listening to. Like, you know, sometimes you bought a Rage tape and you're like, shit. But I mean, you know, you also got a lot of winners that way. You know, Combat was the same, and then Metal Con.
with Roadrunner records. You know, I bought like
Road Racer,
you know,
Roadrunner.
yeah, I bought like Beneath the Remains, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna buy this Obituary tape because it's on the same label.
At the time, it was like that, but now,
Right.
you know,
Now
it's
it's-
just Nickelback and Sepultura, I guess. Is
Oh, for that
rapping
label.
now?
Yeah, I don't know what they're doing.
I haven't
I
heard a
don't care.
Sepultura record since Chaos AD, but you know, and I think for me, I am one of those like old like record collecting nerds that sits around with my buddies, like with a bunch of patches on our vests, like listening to stupid 7 inches, but like, yeah, it's cool, man. Like, you know, I am kind of one of those elitist metal dorks, and it's like, I don't know, I would find the prospect of being label mates with Lieutenant Coil like really hard to take.
Yeah, that
Nothing
wouldn't be our
against them,
style.
they're great, that chick's beautiful, good for them, they sold a lot of records, people like it, but it's not us, it's not ever going to be what we want to be.
But there is inevitably, you know, some labels, they go for quantity over quality. You know, oh,
Right.
this has a pentagram on it. Sign them. This will appeal to this demographic.
Well,
Whereas
for us
it's
too,
not
it's-
all good. There's just no fucking way.
For us too, it's like we don't want to be on a label that's like huge, you know, that has a million bands on the roster because we're not going to get any attention.
Right. It's like, hey, we're label mates with fucking Anthrax, but nobody ever calls me back.
Right.
Call the record label.
That just cheapens the effect too when like a label has a million records. You know, like there are those labels like, I'll say names, Hell's Headbangers, Nuclear
Right,
War
right.
Now. They
Oh, yeah,
specialize in a certain sound,
Sure.
a certain style, and almost every goddamn record is
good.
if not great. You know, I mean, because these guys care about their music. It's a labor of love. They're not trying to get rich. You know, they do elaborate packaging and they do special issues,
Yeah,
limited
yeah. I mean,
editions.
they're doing it for the same reason that we are, just because they like it.
And you know, I mean, people, whatever people say about Relapse, I mean, that's pretty much still their perspective. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously it's a business, and you know, I mean, like, I get that, but I mean, they don't just like sign bands because they think, oh, this would be big. And
They
if
just-
if they did that, they would have signed a play.
And they're doing phenomenal reissues. The Atheists,
Yeah,
the
that's
reissues,
what's
the
really
Repulsion
cool.
reissue.
That's what's really cool about Relapse. They're doing that, you know, and it's just like with that label, they never sold out. It's really cool. Like there was like a period where they weren't, in my opinion, they were signing some weird stuff, but they never like sold out.
At least it was weird. It wasn't commercial.
It was weird, it
Like
wasn't
I said, I don't
commercial.
like all the records they put out. I don't get some of them, but I never hear them like, well, this is just trash. Like I'll be like, this sucks. I
can't
don't
dance
like
to
it.
it, yeah.
But I'm like, this is just like powder. This is bullshit. You know. And whereas like a lot of stuff, you know, a lot of the European popular metal or whatever, to me, it's just like this is just.
Just like a bad Rammstein and Tool metal band.
Yeah.
Right, or the fucking
Sure.
folk bands, or whatever. It's like, I mean, I just hope that all those guys write those records at weekend. They sound like the riffs take like 10 seconds to write,
Less time.
and then the album takes like 10 months to produce.
It's like the song takes less time to write than the
Then the song
duration
is
of it, and then the record takes like 2 years to produce.
To make it sound humongous and get all these people in.
It's pretty silly.
Well, the landscape for metal has changed since I last saw you guys in 2000. I mean, MySpace came, then went, and it was a serious game changer as far as making bands easier to access. And now YouTube has made seeing live footage or even official music videos easy to summon up on our cell phones. And then there's Spotify, you know, which lets us make playlists and dial up practically any band we want, and then we can share them socially very easily. Yeah. So, what is your opinion on all this?
Well, it makes it easier for for kids to find what you're doing, but at the same time, it can be a little goofy. You know, when you play a show and you're like, oh, that show's already on YouTube like an hour later. And then you have kids saying, hey, are you going to do this thing? And you're like, wow, how do you know all this stuff about you? Like, oh, they watched like 15 videos of me playing, like, oh, I really like that patch that you have there. Like, you know, and you're like, what the hell? How do you know that I have? Like, oh, okay, because they watched the video. It's so weird. It's like everybody's like, with the technology now, it doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of privacy anymore. Like, the kids kind of expect more out of you than it used to be, where they're like, hey, you know, like, can I hang out with you or whatever? Like, they'll find something based on the digital media and they'll think, okay, well, I'm friends with this guy on Facebook, so therefore we can hang out. It's weird. It's so weird.
Right.
I mean, my thing is, you know, technology and shit, I mean, I don't really think about it too much. It's the same shit that people have always been doing. The means have become so much more sophisticated. I mean, even when I was getting into it, like, you know, 90 or whatever, you had a fucking dubbing cassette. That's what you had. There you go. Like, if somebody was like, hey man, do you have this demo? You're like, yeah, I do. Cool. You take the demo, and then I got this whole other side of this tape. You just take them like a few other sides.
Sure, yeah, right.
And then you send it to them.
Remember the days of sending cash stuffed in an envelope?
Oh, yeah.
In three papers, three pieces of paper folded up.
I
you know?
get stuff so you
Just send well-hidden cash to this address. Was on all the demo tapes. You know?
Or, you know, going to your mailbox was like Christmas, and I think.
Oh God, I remember. Yeah.
especially getting a demo or something from Europe or Asia or whatever. You're like, wow, this is crazy because it would take so long to get it.
I would
like
always
nobody
order
had
shit
it.
and I would forget about it. And
Oh,
then,
yeah,
like,
totally. I
6
did that
weeks
too.
later, I would
Get, like, all this stuff.
Dude, the necker needs to be going to Costco. Yes.
And then there were those demos that never arrived in the mail from those
Right,
Southeast Asian countries.
Yeah, weird,
The mail-
sketchy countries where
Yeah.
you wouldn't get your stuff. Yeah.
Exactly.
And then the rip-off list and stuff. I
The
mean,
rip-off list, the slaughter list. Yeah,
it's the same. It's the same shit. It's just, it's faster. Like it's. I mean, it's instant. It's not just faster. It's like that. To where you're like, oh, I've heard of this band. Okay, cool. Boom. This is what they sound like. They're great. This is what they look like. Cool. Boom. This is when they played yesterday night.
Yeah. Everything's really impersonal. It's like, oh, okay, well, I'm friends with you. I know you. Blah blah blah. And it's like, no, that's not. It's not really the dynamic. But I mean, it's nice to like have fans who come up and know a lot of stuff about you and they're really into
It's
it.
cool that they care, but at the same time, it's like I think in a way the access. It's great, and I mean, if I was 15, I'd be spending all day doing it. Because when I was 15, I spent all day doing it.
Yeah.
But I think that it sort of cheapens it because it's so, you know, if you get everything you want all the time without any effort, it sort of means less. Whereas, like, if you find the flyer and then you go to some show and you ask some guy in a parking lot with a cool T-shirt about the band, you hear it's good. You know, you're making minimum wage because you're 15. But with $4 in the envelope, you don't know if you're ever going to get it. You're just like, you could be just flushing $4 down the toilet, and then 3 months pass, you don't even remember that you bought it, and then tape shows up, and it's fucking killer. And that's magic.
Yeah,
That's a lot more than...
You keep all the flyers he sent with you. You keep the letter. You keep the envelope. I mean, it's just,
there's no mystery to anything anymore. There's no like there's no work ethic to being a fan anymore. Like you don't have to do anything.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's
weird.
you go to Walmart and buy a shirt nowadays, practically. Yeah.
Well, it's just, you know, between the Encyclopedia Metallica and Wikipedia or whatever, it's like...
You can find anything.
Every discography and this, and then you just go on media finder and you're like, boom. I mean, I know because when I moved to Hawaii, I didn't know my record collection. So I just fucking
Download the whole thing, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's like you could be. It's like you can. It's like going to the library for death metal, and you just
Like,
go
you never
online.
have to
You
return
don't have to leave your house.
You never have to return the book.
Type this in, death metal. Okay.
Sorry.
A whole bunch of stuff, like right there. Okay, done. That's cool. I'm gonna get this demo from this band. Yeah. Okay, cool.
Shit that like took forever to get. Like in 1991, you couldn't just like Morbid Angel. Like couldn't come there. All right, cool. I'm gonna get a glass of water. All right, cool. There he is. Boom, play. Like.
And at that time, you know, your record collection was like your prize or whatever. It's like everything that you had was like this gnarly,
you get a tape
obscure
in the mail.
record
You call your
collection.
friend, I got this tape, man. Check it out.
Yeah, that's exactly what
Celebrate
we would do.
getting a
Sit
tape
and
in the
drink
mail.
beer and like
Yeah.
just listen to these crappy demos.
Front to end and then end to front.
I
Yeah.
mean, really, the funny thing is, I mean, talking about all this, I mean, when we started this band when we were in high school, my whole goal was like, well, I need to get more demos. The easiest way to get demos is to make your own and then you can trade. So if we make a demo, then we can trade demos with people. And then we thought, man, if we just make a 7-inch, like, fucking amazing, you know? So it was like very baby steps. And I mean, we're being nostalgic, and it's not to like take anything away. Like kids aren't going to do it now, but it's like the old curmudgeon, like, oh, I was just bored. We can walk on this. No, it's like
You just had to be there. You just had to. You just don't know.
You see how easy it is now.
You're wearing flats saying that.
I mean, I think it's cool that it's easy for people. I'm just saying, for us, it's like, whoa, what the hell?
Yeah, exactly.
And it all happened so quickly. It happened in what, like 6 years? All the 6 or 7 years, all of a sudden, it's like,
to
MySpace. MySpace really
that's what did
just
it.
made it easy, and then MySpace just went kaput. Like Facebook just executed it point blank.
Because MySpace just like, they were like, we're gonna change this whole setup and make it more elaborate or whatever, and then it was just too complicated to use, and then the server was just, the whole thing was done incorrectly. Nobody was watching what was going on, so then no pages would load, and there was so many problems. It was just a little fun.
It's also just the way of the world.
But just things die out.
I mean, death metal got popular from 1994.
Yeah,
And then black metal got popular, and then it's just there's
Now
trends
it's
and
post
everything.
black metal. What the hell is post black metal? Post serial?
Post brutal death
Yeah,
metal.
y'all have fun with that.
Yeah.
What do you think about the resurgence of vinyl and cassettes and the anti-digital format movement that still keeps physical media very much alive, particularly within underground music? And I'm not gonna let American teenagers dictate my buying habits. So I still buy metal CDs. Well, I get like several a week. I buy them. I get some promos for the zine, yeah, sure. But I take good pride in this collection. I've spent 20 years collecting more than 3,000 CDs. No fucking CDRs. You know, yeah. I mean, I'll give anybody in this state a run for the money. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think for me, I used to have a large CD collection like that, but I've been like moving around a lot, and my lifestyle's kind of crazy because of the band, and just my lifestyle's always been crazy as far as like moving around. So for me, I like the digital thing. I can get rid of all the CDs, and I keep vinyl versions of everything I possibly can. That's how I do.
For me, like, I lost interest in CDs, but I've been collecting vinyl since like 90.
Yeah.
Like, right after high school, I started collecting vinyl.
I collected it for a long time, ever since I got into death metal in like 93 or whatever. But for me, it's like, it's just easier to have all this stuff on a hard drive there, because you're going to have it like that anyway. And the CDs aren't as cool of a format as vinyl. So it's like, why don't I cut out the middleman there and just go...
It's very like a catch-22. Yeah, vinyl is cooler, arguably sounds better, it's limited, blah, blah, blah. But unfortunately, you have to stay home and play. You can't play at the office, in your car, on the train, on the plane.
So
you just...
on an iPod guy.
Right.
Like, cassettes, I mean...
I have those, but they're kind of like...
I don't want to buy cassettes anymore because they're all
And the thing is, even when you don't play a cassette, it's still the oxidation comes off of it while it's just sitting there.
Every time it spins, yeah. While it's sitting there,
Yeah.
There's something to be said about, especially with metal and any kind of indie underground music, is that it's the whole presentation, it's the package, it's the artwork, it's the liner notes, the lyrics, the anecdotes, the photos. We're not listening to goddamn Lady Gaga or anything fun, happy like that.
Right.
We're listening to something that everything, the whole presentation, from the cover to the back cover to the disc. Or the vinyl even, there's marble swirl clear vinyl.
Sure.
These,
We have to keep it interesting because people are a lot less likely to part with their money nowadays.
I mean, the funny thing is that finally, when we first signed the Relapse, we're like, can we do vinyl? Can we do this? Can we do this kind of thing? They're like, nope, costs too much. Nope. Now they're like, so let's make 3 different LP versions and let's do this. I'm like, fuck, I've been trying to talk you guys into this for 10 years, man.
Yeah, when you told me about that, I was like, wow, they're going to make all that shit on vinyl?
Because they fucking want it. People don't want us on CD.
Easy come, easy go.
And it's like, that's good because, I mean, we've always been a band that's tried to, we haven't always succeeded, but we've always tried to make the artwork and include the lyrics and include credits and, imagery and shit that people want to actually look at. Not just like, here's the cover, here's the disc, blank.
Yeah, some of the best bands don't do photo shoots, don't look pretty, don't wear, stupid ass costumes by designers. And it doesn't even matter, because you write your music, you play your music, and you are your music, inside, outside.
But I mean, I think, it's all, for me, we've always been conscious, at least since like 94, when we kind of started like our own style, we've always been conscious that all that shit plays into making a product. I just remember reading an interview with Tom Warner, he's like, we take our photo sessions to like almost like acting, which is an incredibly pretentious thing to say.
Yeah, that is.
I was like, that's pretty smart, because when you get the thing, you want to look at it, you want to be drawn into record. You want to immerse yourself in it. You don't want to just be like, oh, it's just another record.
Your collection is a pride and joy. It's kind of your identity.
Yeah, we want people to be able to sink their teeth into our records, visually, sonically, mentally if they want to read the lyrics and think about it or whatever. We try to like mix it with some depth and some sticking out. Even though it's basically just like grindcore songs about like eating brains.
Well, we talked about lyrical influences, speaking of. Tell us about some of your music influences. I mean, I know you guys are particularly fond of classic bands that help cement the underground as a lasting and influential movement that is only growing stronger with passing time.
I mean, I think we're kind of like set in our ways,
Yeah.
We hear newer music, I mean, mostly like our friends' bands or whatever, but like influence-wise, and it's still Repulsion, Carcass, Terrorizer,
Massacre.
Ooh, from so cute.
Yeah, they're really,
All the stuff from like 88 to 94 that, or really to like 92. This is later stuff. 86 to 92, yeah. So
When Earache, and such were at their
they were just putting out,
kill sessions, all
one
the kill
after
sessions. Oh, yeah.
they were just putting out one after another, just the most awesome shit. And of course, that can't go on forever. So.
yeah, and it gets across the board for that time period. I think, people are always like, wow, we heard your new record. It's like, didn't know you guys are getting kind of thrash on it. I'm like, no, you just couldn't hear the riffs on it rolled out.
Because the production was so terrible.
We've always had Slayer and Exodus riffs, and everything from like German and Canadian thrash to like crust punk, remix and
Yeah.
instant.
Here's the thing: is that we tune our guitars down really low. If you played the same riff we're doing, like one string higher, you tune the guitar up, it would be a thrash record.
We've all been kind of like
A lot of
jokes about like re-recording some of our songs, like in
Higher
different tunings, just to like really be
You guys
hilarious.
sing different languages now. That would be a cool thing to do. Yeah, doing Norwegian.
No, I don't like no
Portuguese.
It's fucking boring.
Awesome. Okay, last words. Go.
Fram. Sorry, I was just free associating.
That's it.